Okay, welcome everyone.
Great to be here.
So today we're looking at some source material that, well, it claims to offer a really practical path for improving your English speaking. It's built around this specific, structured practice method, and our mission really is to unpack how that method works.
Yeah, and see what useful bits you can actually take away and maybe, use pretty quickly.
Exactly. So let's figure out the techniques, the core ideas, and see if it holds up.
All right. Well, this resource, it does lay out a pretty clear multi-step exercise. It's not vague.
Okay.
And we want to go beyond just describing it.
Yeah.
Understand why it might work, the principles behind it.
Yeah, why this approach might actually speed up fluency. So if you're looking for something concrete, maybe some new vocabulary too, stick around.
Let's jump in.
So what's the structure? It sounds like it's pretty defined.
It is. It's a 4-part exercise, very repeatable. And interestingly, it kicks off with listening practice.
Right, and the source stresses this isn't just like background noise listening. The idea is to really focus, deeply understand the meaning of a conversation, a real one between native speakers.
Exactly. Comprehension is step 1. Because, language is about communication, not just sounds.
Makes sense. You got to get the message first.
That focus on meaning builds that foundation you need before you can, effectively speak yourself.
Okay, so you listen, you focus on meaning. What's part 2?
Then it moves into vocabulary.
Yeah.
Specifically, vocabulary from the conversation you just heard.
Okay, so it's context-driven.
Yeah. New words, phrases, they're highlighted, explained, and then you see them in other example sentences too.
So you hear it used, then you zoom in on it.
Okay.
Got it.
Well,
What follows the vocab?
This is where it starts getting more active. There's a listen and answer practice section.
Okay, how does that work?
It asks you questions about the conversation, and the key is you have to try and answer them out loud before you hear the correct answer.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just multiple choice. You have to actually produce the language?
Right. It forces you to retrieve the information and try to form a response, even a simple one.
That sounds like active recall. Is that the term? Making your brain pull the answer out instead of just recognizing it.
That's exactly it. Active recall really strengthens memory and, crucially, helps you access words and structures faster when you actually need them to speak.
Puts you on the spot a bit.
Yeah, even if it's just you, it builds that retrieval muscle.
Okay, makes sense. And the final piece of this 4-part puzzle?
Shadowing practice.
Shadowing.
Yeah, where you repeat lines from the conversation immediately after the speaker, mimicking them.
Okay, so here the focus shifts. Less on meaning, more on sound.
Precisely. It's about copying the rhythm, the intonation, the flow of the speech.
Trying to match the music of English, sort of, where the stress goes, the pitch changes, helps you sound less, stiff.
Shadowing helps you internalize those sound patterns. It's like training your mouth and your ears to work together, building muscle memory for pronunciation.
And the source is clear, right? The real benefit comes from doing this whole cycle: listen, vocab, answer, shadow again and again.
Yes, repetition is key. It reinforces everything together. Understanding, words, pronunciation, fluency. It's integrated.
You're not just drilling one skill in isolation. You're practicing the whole communication loop.
Exactly.
Okay, that structure feels logical from a learning standpoint. Now, the source uses a specific example conversation, right? What's that about?
It does. It's actually a pretty short exchange. Two people just talking about news they heard.
Okay.
But the topic itself is quite serious. It's about a huge fire in the city. Lots of people lost their homes.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's pretty heavy. The conversation must get into the emotional side of that.
It does, yeah. It uses very natural ways to express sadness. Like you hear someone say, "Oh no, that's so sad." And it shows empathy too.
Right. I saw phrases like, "I cannot imagine losing my home like that," really acknowledging how awful it must be.
And it must be so scary.
Yeah.
And they even say directly, "I cannot imagine how they feel right now." So really trying to connect with the experience.
Does it mention details? Like what happened to people?
Yeah, it touches on injuries, people go to the hospital. But importantly, there's also this mention of relief.
Relief in that context.
Yeah, because apparently no one actually died in the fire.
Okay. So it's that mix of feelings. Sadness for the loss, but relief that lives were spared.
Exactly. The line is something like, "That's a relief. I cannot imagine how they feel right now."
Yeah.
It captures that complexity.
Very human reaction. And how does the conversation end?
It wraps up with some reflections, actually. Things people often think about after hearing bad news.
Like what?
Like feeling grateful for what you have. It makes me feel thankful for what I have. And also a reminder about kindness. We should always be kind to others. They may be going through something hard.
That's a really good point. So it's a short dialogue, but it packs in a lot of natural emotional language.
Very much so. Language people actually use when reacting to difficult situations.
And this conversation becomes the raw material for the vocabulary part of the method.
That's right. The source picks out 4 key words or phrases from this specific dialogue to explain.
Okay, what's the first one?
I cannot imagine.
Oh, we just talked about that one.
Yeah. And the source defines it as, when you really can't picture or feel what something must be like because it's just too difficult or outside your own experience.
Right. Like the example, I cannot imagine living without my family. That makes sense.
Or the others it gives, like, I cannot imagine how it has changed, or your pain, sir, or just, I cannot imagine that.
It really shows how versatile that phrase is for expressing strong empathy or maybe disbelief about something tough.
It does. It signals you recognize the severity, even if you haven't lived it. Okay, next term, injury.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. A hurt part of the body.
Yep. Example, he had a leg injury after the accident.
Simple enough.
And it shows other ways you might hear it, like after an injury, internal injuries, multiple injuries, just showing common usage.
Good context. Then there's that other phrase we mentioned from the dialogue, that's a relief.
Mm-hmm. This is what you say when something bad could have happened but didn't, and you feel better about it.
Like the example given, I thought I lost my phone, but I found it. Phew, that's a relief. Perfect.
Yeah. And the source actually repeats this phrase quite a bit in its examples.
Oh, why?
I think to hammer home just how common and natural it is, it's a go-to phrase when worry turns into relief.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. A very frequent idiom. And the last one.
The final phrase is going through.
Ah, right. Meaning someone is experiencing a difficult time, a challenge.
Exactly. The example was, she is going through a sad time because her cat is sick.
Poor cat.
And it shows variations too, like anything you go through or we go through together or you're going through something.
That's super useful. You hear going through all the time when people talk about struggles or tough periods. Using that definitely makes you sound more natural.
Absolutely. It's standard vocabulary for discussing challenges.
Okay, so I've got the 4-part method, the sample conversation about the fire, and these 4 key vocabulary items pulled from it. How does the source show you putting it all together in practice?
Right. So in the listen and answer step, the questions come straight from that conversation.
Okay.
Like it'll ask, what happened in the city? Or how did Mia feel about the fire?
And the process is you try to answer out loud first.
Yep.
Then you hear the expected answer. So for what happened, you might stammer out a fire, big fire, and then you hear the model, there was a fire. A huge fire happened in the city.
Exactly. It pushes you to produce, then gives you the target. And it checks details too.
Like what?
Like ask, was the fire small? And you should, and then you hear the confirmation. No, it wasn't. It was huge.
Okay.
Or did anyone die in the fire? You answer no, then here. No, they didn't.
So it's checking comprehension and getting you to speak actively.
Precisely. Combining those two things.
And then the shadowing part, that's just pure mimicry.
Pretty much, yeah. You hear a line from the original dialogue say, did you watch the news last night?
Mm-hmm.
And your job is just to repeat it right away.
Trying to match the sound.
Exactly. Match the timing, the ups and downs, the rhythm.
So you'd hear, a few people went to the hospital, but luckily no one died. And you just echo that back.
Echo it back, yeah. Trying to sound like the original speaker, it's less about understanding at that specific moment and more about the physical act of making those English sounds and patterns.
Training your mouth, like you said.
Training your mouth, training your ear, taking that authentic language and practicing producing it naturally.
So when you put it all together, this method seems to guide you pretty deliberately from just listening and understanding to picking up specific words, then actively using them to answer questions. And finally, just practicing the physical sound and flow, all using that one core conversation.
Yeah, it's quite elegantly structured around that single piece of material. This deep dive really highlights, I think, that language learning can be practical.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be abstract grammar rules all the time.
No, it can be built around these simple, but, emotionally resonant exchanges, using structured repetition to turn what you know into what you can actually say.
And it emphasizes not just vocabulary lists, but using language naturally, even for tricky things like expressing empathy or relief.
Right. Which brings us maybe to a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay.
Based on this material, think about this. When we practice using language to understand and express empathy, like the speakers did talking about the fire victims, how might that act of empathetic communication itself actually deepen our connection? Not just to the words, but to the real human experiences behind the language.
That's interesting. Does practicing empathy through the language make the language itself stick better, maybe? Connect us more deeply? Something to think about?